And welcome back to the Hotline, where we're talking about Marko's big apology, the two causes behind Verstappen's Mercedes contract delay, also Verstappen on his sister, and the latest on Daniel Ricciardo's injury. But on motorsport.com, let's get into Red Bull Marko apologises for what was an offensive remark about Sergio Perez. This is by Jonathan Noble. Now, the Red Bull Motorsport advisor, Helmut Marko, has apologised for offensive racial stereotype comments he made about Sergio. Now, in the wake of a season where Red Bull driver Perez has, let's be honest, more than failed to match Max Verstappen at most races, Marko's not really held back. But in his remarks he made to Red Bull's own channel, Service, I think it's called Service TV, earlier this week, he kind of went a bit overboard. He said, "We know that he has problems in qualifying. He has fluctuations in form," said Marko when talking about Perez. He said he is South American and he is just not as completely focused in his head as Max Verstappen is, or as Sebastian Vettel. And as well as Marko's comments being an insult to Perez and all South Americans, it caused a stir in Mexico because the country is actually officially in North America. Now, amid ongoing speculation about Perez's future at the team and growing discontent about Marko's comments, Service TV's issued a statement on Friday, but on behalf of Marko on Friday today. Well, actually tomorrow now. It's now Saturday. I'm recording this. Apologising for what he said. The statement posted on its website said, "I would like to apologise for my offensive remark and want to make it absolutely clear that I do not believe we can generalise about the people from any country, any race, any ethnicity. I was trying to make a point that Checo has fluctuated in his performance this year, but it was wrong to attribute this to his cultural heritage." And as we know, Perez has got a contract for next year, but there's been speculation about whether that's going to be the case. And interestingly, also, the Mexican dropped the first hint about a potential future elsewhere. And this was after the Italian Grand Prix suggested that, what he said, "With the season we've had, it's important in the next few races that I want to be in the right environment in which I feel I can contribute," he told the Spanish channel DAZN, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that. So he went on to say, "And if that place in 2024 isn't here, we have to look for other alternatives. But right now, my main focus is being here, winning more races, continuing to win championships with Red Bull. I have a contract until next year, so sometime next year we will sit down and talk." But there we go. Helmut Marko, I mean, this is the thing. He does have very clickbaity, newsworthy quotes, doesn't he? But I can't help but feel he really needs to rein it in, doesn't he, sometimes? And this is where he went too far. Potentially some other organisations, someone may have lost their job or been suspended. I mean, fair enough, he's apologised. We all make mistakes. So I guess we shall see what happens. Will he be at the next race, for example? Will he go to Mexico? That'd be interesting. So there we go. But next up on planetf1.com by Thomas Mayer, the two causes behind Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes contract delay. So why did his contract take so long? If you remember the amount of times that even, I think Toto said, it's pretty much indicated, it's pretty much signed. We just need to cross the I's. No, cross the I's and dot the T's. Yeah, let's go with that. Dot the I's and cross the T's. So the article says, despite having maintained all year that they wanted to continue working together, it took until last weekend's Italian Grand Prix for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton to finalise their contract. Now, given that both Hamilton and Mercedes indicated they wanted to continue their partnership, why did it take so long? Toto reveals when the deal came together. He said early in the summer, it was rumoured that one sticking point was that Hamilton was chasing an ambassadorial role with the Mercedes brand for when his career comes to an end. The delayed situation allowed for rumours to spiral, including one where Hamilton was linked with a possible seat switch with the Leclerc at Ferrari. No doubt a useful bargaining chip for Hamilton, it suggested. Now, speaking to media, including planetf1.com, during the Italian Grand Prix weekend, the Austrian was asked whether Hamilton's new 2-year contract had been one of the toughest two sides to negotiate. He said, no, it wasn't, before revealing that the two parties had reached an agreement. I think Lewis and I were clear on the major terms in June and July, he continued. Then things were bubbling along slowly, then it was summer break. So why did it take so long to be finalised? In the end, it was things about marketing. He said, not really the big relevant topics. That took a bit of time. Obviously reluctant to reveal too much detail, Wolff made a joke about how slowly the lawyers taking care of the contract negotiations had been working as being the contributing factor. He said sometimes with lawyers they actually play ping pong. He said, I mean, I was obviously splendid, but the other side wasn't. So there we go. I mean, not much real news, but I imagine it was just the niggly bits. It was really obvious though that the two were going to stay together. I mean, you had that story at Ferrari. Probably wasn't really going to go there. What, maybe like a 1% chance out of 100, I guess. But they're there for the next 2 years and possibly more. I mean, his contract brings us to 2025, and that's the last year of these current rule regulations. And if he's still as on form as he is now, the interesting thing is going to be what happens in 2026. The worst thing he'd do for Lewis is to leave the team and then find out that Mercedes have built a winning car in 2026. Imagine that. So Verstappen, this is on racefans.net, has said, my sister probably had the same amount of talent as me. Now, many years back, Verstappen's rivals early in his career reckoned it was inevitable he would end up in Formula One. Not only because of his ability, but due to his unique schooling, let's say, of his father, Jos Verstappen. And the young Verstappen had a tremendous karting career, but the demands of preparing, testing and racing left him time for, not much else. Now he's on his way to his third championship in as many seasons. He's no doubt made sacrifices, as I think all children in Formula One, do. Speaking to race fans at Monza, Verstappen said he was willing to accept that committing himself to go-karting when he was a child meant missing out on some opportunities. I wanted to be here, he says. I wanted to be in Formula One. People always ask me, didn't you miss going out with friends? Because, of course, you couldn't do it as frequently as other people. But I'm like, that's fine, because most of my friends were anyway within the racing community. I knew what I was working for, so I was happily giving up that side of my life because he was enjoying what he was doing. So for me, it was not very hard to give that up. Although he has some opportunities to spend time with friends at home, I obviously remained fixed on eventually going to Formula One. He said, sometimes when I'd be at home, you would go out or just have fun with your friends. But then on the other, I know that I only have one shot at this to try and get to Formula One, and I'll do everything I can. And the year before Verstappen made his F1 debut, Red Bull's chief technical officer, Adrian Newey, raised concerns that aspiring racing drivers were missing too much school. His comments were not aimed, obviously, particularly at Verstappen, but just in general. And perhaps unsurprisingly, Verstappen was not too disappointed to miss school in order to go go-karting. People always complain about drivers they miss school because they want to pursue F1. But school, you can always finish. That is not something that comes around once. The opportunity to get to Formula One comes around once. Okay, fair enough. Now here, Verstappen's sister, Victoria, who's 3 years younger than him, had the chance to follow her brother, father kart racing mother in motor racing. I think she had a lot of potential, said Verstappen. F1's finally woken up to the need to bring more women to reach top flight of motor racing and form the F1 Academy. But Verstappen said his sister didn't have the same appetite. He said, there are a few instances where my dad would spend 2 days preparing everything like he would with me, making sure everything was perfect for her to drive. Then she would drive for like 20 laps and then she's like, that's it for me today, and my dad would get quite annoyed. However, Verstappen is convinced that his sister, if it had his sister wanted to, she could make a career out of motor racing. He said, I think my sister probably had the same amount of talent as I had when I was little, but she just didn't want it enough. She liked it, but not enough to fight for it. To be fit, be ready, that's fine as long as you realise that. My dad was anyways mainly focused on me. But then if you really want it, if you really want to fight for it, even let's say your dad is not really focused on you, if you make him see that I want to do this as well. I was 100% sure my dad would have gone all the way for her, but my dad didn't. She didn't want it enough. There you go. Nice, I guess, a nice thing. It would have been interesting, wouldn't it, two Verstappens in Formula One? Unfortunately, we'll never know. But I think you've got the hunger. I think F1 drivers want it. A lot of F1 drivers, okay, some are kind of like gifted. And when I say gifted, they drive more than others. It all takes money. And I've never really understood, for example, pay drivers in the sense of your Pedro Dinizes, not to discount that they could probably drive a car insanely faster than someone like me can. But it isn't. I've always thought they pay drive. It's akin to you or me, you or I, going up to Arsenal Chelsea, Manchester City, a football team, saying, here's £3 million I want to play as, I want to play centre forward, goalkeeper, defence today. And them going, okay, weird. And this is the sport where you've only got 20 people a year at the moment, maybe 22, if there's a new team next year. 20 people a year. So, the latest on Daniel Ricciardo, he reveals a severe scar on his hand as he continues recovery from that broken left hand after the Dutch Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo has revealed, this is from Sky Sports, a severe scar on his hand for this recovery. He crashed on the Friday, as we remember, at Zandvoort and broke his metacarpal, there you go, in his left hand due to the sudden movement of the steering wheel hitting the barrier. There it is. And I tell you what, it does look nasty, doesn't it? You've got to know that. That's not even, I mean, that's not even keyhole surgery. That's going to be a proper scar. He says relatively unchanged. So hopefully, the rumour is he's not going to be here for Singapore or Japan, potentially for Qatar. So he's going to have 6 races to prove himself. So let's see, shall we? 6 races to prove yourself, Daniel. And that's pretty much it for the news. So I guess we'll speak to you next time on the Hot Lap. Thank you. Like, subscribe, give me a comment if you made it to the end.